I am Shawn, NFT Bear. This is Ben Precup and Thea Precup. They are brother and sister, and they created the Birds of the USA. And Ben also has his collection, Ben Precup collection on OpenC. And Thea, isn't there another collection that you make?
Yes. So people who bought into the Birds of the USA, I needed a way to honor them, and I also wanted to explore my own art. So I created my NFT friends, where I draw you and I gush about you through social media. I turn you into an NFT. That's about it.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions to get started. And then Thea has some questions for Ben. And I don't know, is Ben asking questions too? I don't know. Whatever. We're going to just wing it.
I might just be making random bird calls all day long.
Or we could talk about stamps and posters and albums and CDs. Like
Yeah,
we could do that too.
Yeah.
I think
We can talk about life, guys. This doesn't have to be all NFTs, but you guys are here because your art is amazing. You Thea's on all the time. Everybody knows Thea, and I just want to ask you both individually. And I know Ben, there's a little bit like you just do the art, but I want to ask you, how did you get into NFTs? What were you doing? How did you get into TikTok? How did this get started? This Birds of the USA project.
Primarily for my sister. She was asking me about, because I've been doing graphic design for the last 16 years or so. And I'm always getting into like all these kind of like side projects, whether it's my own personal things or whether it's like, designing a logo for somebody. So I've been doing it for quite a long time. And then like my sister just randomly texts me. It's like, what do you know about NFTs? I'm like, what is an NFT? I don't know. And so she was doing a lot of research, watching a lot of videos. And I absolutely had no idea what NFTs were. I'm like, look, I'll just give you the artwork. I'll make it look pretty, make it look cool, and you do the NFT thing. So like, it was kind of more like a collaborative process of like, I'll develop the artwork, right? And then you can do all the back end NFT, OpenC kind of thing, so like create the profiles and all that stuff. So that's kind of where it started from. I don't know exactly where the kernel or the idea came in her mind. So I'll pass it along to her, but that's kind of where I started with the whole NFT thing. So,
well, let me interrupt you before Thea answers, because this is really interesting. You are kind of, or we're kind of in the space that a lot of people are watching this. A lot of people are that come to our TikToks. They know nothing about NFTs.
Yeah.
And you just happen to have this sister that walked you through it and did all the legwork with the stuff. But a lot of people have to learn how to do that. So this is going to be interesting to find out how you did that, Thea, because you really didn't know about OpenC. You had to learn all this stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. So actually, I am very, I guess some people call it multi-passionate. Some people call it ADD, but like my mind's always going a million miles an hour thinking about different things I can get into. So like I have Airbnb, I'm a pharmacist, I'm starting a functional medicine business. And then I'm about things that don't require as much effort, right? Trying to make multiple streams of income. And I was really learning about cryptocurrency. So I really wanted to be investing in crypto. And as I was learning about cryptocurrency, I was exposed to NFTs and hearing about how all these like kids were making NFTs and making so much money from them. I'm like, okay, my brother is a professional graphic designer. I'm like, well, there may be an opportunity here. And as I was learning more about it, I was like, wow, this is really a good opportunity for artists. Like, not only do you make money off your initial sale of the art, but then you're guaranteed to make money off of the resale, right? You get royalties. And it's like they're on the blockchain. It's like permanent. It's like, here's my art. Like, just a great way to expose artists. And I'm like, I have to get him involved somehow. So I really started this project with him in mind, thinking that I can create some kind of inspiration for him. But I don't know. I ended up falling in love with the community, honestly. And now I'm really here just because I love being part of the community. Like, everyone is like such good, real people here. And like, I started doing like, I don't even know, my brain goes different directions. So like recently I started interviewing people Like I interviewed Kim from Paru Creations, and I tried to make it just fun. Like I just want to be have fun in the community. So that interview was really good. I went in on TikTok Live, and then I put it back on YouTube. And then I interviewed Luke from the Sherwood Project. That was pretty fun too. So I'm just trying to have a good time and following my intuition, whatever feels good, you know, kind of where I'm at.
But let me ask you, because there's a lot of people who come into NFTs in the same way that they come into crypto, thinking that it's a get rich quick thing and that you're going to make a ton of money. The truth about NFTs is that we're all not Alan Reyes from Crypto Cannibals, who's made like 150,000 from his NFTs, or one of these 10,000 projects that make 2 to 3 million in one day minting. That costs $60,000, $80,000, $90,000 to do those projects up front. So most people like us are small artists, small NFT makers. You make a little bit of money. We don't have to get into how much it is, but this is not like enough money to pay all your rent and your bills in your car, but it is something. And it's almost, tell me what you guys think about this. It's almost more fun or more rewarding to give away an NFT to someone who can't afford it or someone who wins a contest than it is to get a purchase of an NFT, which isn't bad also. That also feels great. How do you feel about that? Because I know you also do a lot of giveaways like I do.
Yeah, I think it's great. I actually gave away, you know, your mermaid. They're not sea maidens. It's called sea maidens.
Well, yeah, sea maidens.
They're basically mermaids. So I was excited because I gave away a piece of that to all of the Birds of the USA holders, and it was cool to see everyone retweeting it. Like, look what I just got for being a Birds of the USA holder. Like, and I'm about to do another airdrop too. I had people voting in our Discord, like which NFT, because there's a few that we haven't posted yet on OpenC. I'm like, all right, I want to do another airdrop, and which one do you guys want to get? So I had them voting in the Discord. So probably by the end of next week, we'll be doing another airdrop.
Awesome. And I just wanted to mention, these are the NFTs that we're giving away at 8 p.m. tonight with Ron from Ebis Labs, one of our sponsors and great friends. Everybody's getting one of these NFTs. This is created by Antonio or Chicago Toy Hunter. This is Gatsby Fly, Ultraman, one of these two NFTs. Everyone who signed up for this conference will get one. I'm giving away a small turtle with wings. This is a Birds of the USA that you guys created. And we're giving one of those away, the Ukraine bird. Owl Dudes gave us an NFT. Gorilla Pimp Squad's giving us an NFT. This is Ben's NFT from his collection. I can't move my finger in the right way. We just got a Toon Squad this morning. This is the actual NFT. These are cool. They kind of look like Bob's Burgers. And then, you know, Kim, the hoodies from Pyro Creations, right there. And then the last one is an Audi from Dr. Kabukenstein, and it comes with a free t-shirt. Now, I don't know if the t-shirt has the NFT on it or some other NFT, some other otter, but those are the NFTs we're giving away. So thank you guys for donating those NFTs.
I think it's so fitting because you want to give 10% of the proceeds of this conference to Ukraine. So like that worked out so well that you got the Ukraine bird.
Right. The very first thing we're going to do, so everybody is transparent, we're going to take the taxes out of whatever we make. And then we've had 4 sponsors and a ton of people signing up. So we'll just take that and then we'll do the 10% to the Ukraine. And I might want to get your information. I think I'm just going to do the Mila Kunis Ashton Kutcher charity. So if you give me that information, I'll send it to them and we'll do a post and show the receipt and all that. And then the rest of it, whatever's left, we're going to give a little bit of money to everybody who's a speaker or working on the conference. But the goal is to have a conference in real life in 6 months to a year in Atlanta. And if that doesn't work out, we're just going to have a party at a restaurant and meet everybody that's been working on this stuff forever. And it'd be great to meet you guys and everybody else. But let me ask Ben, because he hasn't said anything for a minute. Ben, how did you, look, this is for both of you. How did you come up with the Birds of the USA, and how did you and your sister decide what birds to do and what style to do? I know before offline we were talking backstage about posters and album art. How did you come up with the look for the birds?
Well, the whole 50 state birds was her idea. And the reason I did it in this style, it's like a more of a photo manipulated digital style. I could crank out 50 birds plus the eagle plus the Ukrainian bird plus the Twitter bird. So it was like 53 birds total. And I'm like, to actually sit down and illustrate these things by hand would have taken me like forever and ever. And I wanted to crank them out as economically as possible. Let's say that. So what I did is like I took photo references from royalty free. There were images in the public domain. So I took images so I did research of like all 50 state birds, and I just went down the list one by one alphabetically. So like Alabama, for example, I just went and researched it. That was one of our ones that was kind of
we messed up on that one.
That was a little bit of a hiccup because the Alabama they refer to every bird as like the yellow hammer, and I'm like, okay, so on that list it was like Alabama yellow hammer, and then so like I researched that one, and it showed me the bird that was not exactly accurate, so
there was a yellow hammer in Europe, and when the Europeans came to America for the first time, they just named random birds that they saw of whatever reminded them of Europe. So they named some bird in Alabama the yellow hammer, and that's the state bird.
Yeah, so they just kind of gave it that kind of nickname, and so like the nickname didn't correspond to the actual bird. So like I had to go back and redo that one. But the idea was like I want to crank these things out fairly quickly in a more of a somewhat of a realistic timetable. And to do all 50 of these things by hand would have taken me like literally like, a year, so like.
Was it, sorry to interrupt, was it Photoshop or what were you, Illustrator?
Yeah, Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop. So what I did is like, I almost equate it to like, if you've seen the movie Frankenstein, where Dr. Frankenstein goes and he digs up like different body parts from all over the cemetery. That's kind of how I did these birds, where I would take like, I would combine different elements of photographs in Photoshop and combine them. Like these birds kind of have like more of like a bigger eye. So they're a little bit more cute, right? So if you were like this to look at a bird, for example, like, the North Carolina cardinal, their eyes are not really that big. So like I would take the photograph of the cardinal, put it in there, and then I would Photoshop like different elements of the bird to kind of like make it my own style. And then I would run like these, Photoshop has like all these new neural filters that the newer versions of Photoshop has. So like I would make them look more like an oil painting and make it look more like it's like, rendered by hand. But all this is like a Photoshop filter. But even so, each bird probably took me anywhere from like an hour and a half to 2 hours to do one bird. So
you're putting tons of filters on there.
In Photoshop.
Right. So Thea, I have one question so far from Q&A, but why don't you take over? You got a bunch of questions on social for Ben. Mm-hmm. And do you want to ask yourself a question or are you just asking Ben questions?
I'm going to ask Ben some questions. We'll see how we are on time after that. He may ask me some questions too if we still have at the end. Sounds good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm going to have some of these questions be silly questions, okay? And some of them are...
Sure.
Ben, we're going to do some impressions.
Oh, okay. There we go.
This is my favorite part of it.
We hit it off with the deep cuts already. Yeah.
Yes. Give me your best Xena impression.
My neighbors are probably going to call the police on me now.
Arnold.
Hey, Sully, you're a funny guy. I like you. That's why I'm going to kill you last.
Christopher Walken.
The tooth fairy is putting the tooth underneath my pillow. Okay. That wasn't very good, but I thought I could do better.
No, these are great, dude. Keep going. We're gonna get you on the Tonight Show.
Yeah, I know.
Sylvester Stallone.
Hey, Apollo, Mick and I were training better, and he knocked me out, knocked my tooth out.
Adrian. Okay. All right. So tell me your story, where you came from, up until like why you chose to go to school, where you went, and so forth.
My story. Well, I was always kind of like the art kid, you know, the artsy kid. You know, every time I would get as far back, even like in kindergarten, even before kindergarten, I always liked drawing and doodling, and you know, I think all that was kind of birthed from a place of loneliness. You know, we have an older brother who's he's a year and a couple months older than me, and so me and him would always hang out. But like when he started going to school, and she was only like maybe a couple months old, I had nobody to hang out with. And my mom, you know, at the time, she'd be like, this was like back in the early 80s. So it was a completely different time where, you know, you're kind of left to your own devices to do what you do. You're not, you know, there's
no phones, no iPads.
There's no computer, there's no cameras monitoring you, whatever, you know, it's like you got, it's basically the only way you can kind of like keep from going crazy is to try to find something to do for yourself. And, you know, being immigrants to this country, you know, my parents never like put us in like little league baseball sports or anything like that. So it was like me hanging out the house, you know, without any parents, you know. So I was like, ooh, here's a piece of paper, here's a pencil, let me start drawing. So like as far back as I can remember, drawing was kind of like, in a way, like a form of escapism where I could just like let my imagination completely run wild. And I became pretty good at it. So like, you know, when I started going to, you know, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I was always kind of like that art kid, you know, where like I was really, you know, proficient in drawing and painting and coloring and stuff like that. And so that's kind of like where the artistic thing kind of like sparked from. It was just like a necessity to kill loneliness, right? And I became very good at it, you know. And me and my brother both, and even Theodora, she's very talented, as you know, with her NFT projects and stuff like that. Although she doesn't have like, her background is not really art, but she's always had like an aptitude to draw and to be more artistic as well. So you know, even through, you know, middle school, high school, I was always doodling and drawing and painting, you know, whenever I was bored, on the back of my tests, on the back of my homework. My teachers were probably like, you know, what's wrong with this kid? He's like drawing over everything, you know? So that's kind of my background. And then, you know, to get more into like my professional career as a graphic designer, I knew from a very, very early age what I wanted to do with my life, or what I thought I wanted to do, rather. I loved comic books as a kid. I loved, you know, drawing just crazy.
Wait. What comic books did you love?
So I had a next door neighbor that kind of introduced me and my older brother to comic books, and he was a big Marvel guy. He was a big Marvel guy, and this was like late 80s, early 90s. So you had that era of like, you know, when the comic book industry kind of exploded. It was very exciting. You had like X-Men #1 by Jim Lee. You had all these great Marvel comics that came out at the time. So like Marvel was kind of like my go-to at that early stage. And I would look at like all these guys that ended up starting Image Comics, like Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Eric Larson, all these guys, Rob Liefeld, and the guy that started Spawn, his name kind of escapes me right now. He started the Spawn comic book. Why is his name escaping me?
It's not Frank Miller.
What's that?
It's not Frank Miller.
No, it's not Frank Miller. No. But the guy who started Todd McFarlane, there it is. Yeah. So like all these guys, before they moved over to Image in 1991, all these guys were like super megastars, Marvel artists. And all these guys were like, I mean, I love their art. Their art just like blew my mind, right? And so like I would try to emulate their style. Jim Lee primarily, because I thought he was like he was a god, right? He was like, his art
But can you give me context? Is it like Spider-Man? Is it Captain America? Who was the comic? Is it Spawn?
It was probably early X-Men by Jim Lee.
Okay.
But then you also had like early Spider-Man by Eric Larson, who ended up doing Savage Dragon. His stuff was just so awesome. His anatomy and his poses and everything was just like so over the top and so exaggerated. But like, a lot of people like to I don't know if you were like kind of anywhere into comic books and you think about like Rob Liefeld and his anatomy. He did never actually studied anatomy, right? But his style was so exciting, and so there was so much energy in every panel that it's like you can't not look at his style and be like somewhat in awe, especially for a kid his age at that time. He was like, I think he was like 19 or 20 when he broke into comic books. And he had no formal training. He was just kind of like me, like some kid that loved to draw and use his imagination. And a lot of people like they will critique his artwork. It's like he doesn't know anatomy, he doesn't know this, he doesn't know that. I'm like, that's fine. You don't really need to know this kind of stuff in terms of comic books. Comic books is about selling this energy, this stylized version of human anatomy. And that's what really kind of like drew my attention. And so like I would try to emulate these guys' styles all the time. And I would sit there for hours and hours and draw, come up with my own superheroes. And so I knew very early on, I had like a very passionate, aptitude to do this kind of stuff. Now, although being from Romania, and my parents were like, they never pushed me or my brother, because my brother had talent in that area as well. They were like, you're not going to make any money. You're not going to support a family by drawing these little doodles and, whatever. So it was like my initial inkling was to go into that arena and further my skills as a artist, and drawing comics and stuff like that. So
I remember our oldest brother had applied to go to a school in New Jersey. What school was that?
That was the Joe Kubert School of Art. It's based out of New Jersey. It's still there to this day. I think
somebody famous go there.
There was a lot of comic book artists that graduated from that school.
Did he get in?
We both got accepted, actually, but
he wanted to go, but then he was discouraged by my parents, basically. So he never ended up going. Now he's a car mechanic, which is what my dad did. But
I mean, you're going out of state. You're staying in dorms, and like the cost would have been, just kind of out of our price range or whatever. So I never actually pursued that route to draw comics, although I always kept a little sketchbook with me, and I would always draw. And I still have like a lot of sketches from even back from like high school, like 20 some years ago. And
to this day, you actually have a comic book idea, right? Like you have one.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Like I had to make one.
I had a buddy of mine who was also a coworker a couple of years ago, and he was also really big into comic books and drawing and sketching. And so we wanted to do this collaboration of like coming together and doing like a book together, like just a one-shot comic book, and like seeing if we could ever get it off the ground and stuff. So we had these ideas, and I wrote out a script and all that stuff, and it just then COVID happened, and so we kind of like lost connection with each other. And now just kind of sitting there where, at the end of the day, when you work 8-9 hours and you commute for another, hour and a half, you come home and you're just like, I do not want to touch a computer. I do not want to pick up a pencil.
I know all about it. Yeah.
So
let me ask a couple questions from the audience, and we'll get back to Thea's questions. But
yeah, go ahead.
Before I get to the questions from the audience, Thea, I want to ask you, because we are all talkers here. We'll run out of time. How did you get into TikTok, and what made you think of like, I'm going to do TikToks to promote the NFT collection?
I saw a girl on TikTok, 2 girls actually, that inspired me to get on TikTok. The first girl was Sydney, Espo Visuals. I don't even know if she realizes that I was like watching her videos back in the fall, and she was like, oh my God, I sold an NFT. And then just watching her journey, I was like, oh, look at this girl with so much success.
Yeah.
You it kind of inspired me to try it too. And
Yeah,
then,
she's really great.
and then the second person was Lauren Turton, who she's my age. I don't know, something about somebody who's your same age doing something like motivates the heck out of me. She's my age, and she literally made things happen. Like, she went to a conference that Gary Vee was speaking at, and she's like, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to interview him. And she grabbed an interview with him that catapulted her now NFT career, right? Because she has a successful podcast called Freedom with NFTs.
Right.
She created a course and all this stuff. So like, I've just been watching her kick ass in this space. And those two people who I found on TikTok were inspired me to just get on TikTok and start sharing our journey and what we're doing. And I'm like, we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah. Did you know she spoke at San Diego NFT Con, and she got a deal there to do 60 podcasts, Freedom with NFTs, and she and her whole team is being paid to do the podcast. That's like her job now.
Yeah. I love that. I love all the opportunities that are in this space right now. It's
so cool. All right, so I have a couple questions from the audience, from the attendees, or whatever we're going to call them. Welcome, everybody. This is so cool. Christopher Brown says, why did you use birds as an inspiration for your collection? Why birds, and why not bears? Why not tigers?
Well, I thought it was easy to, that was just like one of the first examples I thought of. I was like, we need to do something that's a collectible, that has, I just threw that out there, like 50 state birds. And he liked the idea, and then we just kind of went with it. But we both like nature too, but we're not technically like birders. Although I am like learning more about birds than I ever thought I would, because I started doing this bird series on TikTok, like, what's the state bird of this? And like telling you some facts about it.
Yeah, I think part of the appeal was that, every 50 states has an official state bird. They don't have an official state bear or an official state, it's like, we could have done flowers. We could have done, I think every state has an official flower. Every state has an official something. So like, I think birds, because there is such a wide array of species of birds, it gives you like more of a variety when you're making a collection, at least as far as like 53 birds or whatever. And the thing is, like, there's so many birds out there, and you learn so much about birds in general as you're creating these things and looking them up for each state. But primarily is because like every state has an official state bird. That's kind of the reason why I thought it was such a cool idea, because people enjoy collecting stamps, and you see birds on stamps all the time anyway. It was just kind of like, man, that makes perfect sense to me to use birds. And
yeah, we were in the mindset of what's a collectible item.
Yeah, stamps.
Stamps. So that's why we made these like in the little.
And that's why I kind of went with the outlines. Like I used like a framed stamp around each bird. And so like, it's like, when I was growing up, I thought Garbage Pail Kids were like the coolest thing ever. And each Garbage Pail Kid had like, they were all basically just a young little, they're obviously poking fun of Cabbage Patch Kids, right?
Right.
But each one had their own little personality. Each one had their own little personal, like, grossness to them. And as a kid, I was just like blown away, not only by the idea of them, but like the artwork in general. And one thing that like I'm noticing, like, NFTs are like, people like crank them out so quickly, and just like, it just seems like there's they're more created in a sense of like, let me make as much money as I can as quickly as possible. And I'm like, let's put at least a little bit of time in each bird and make them their own individual thing, and give them a little bit of a personality, and give them like, the name and the state and everything. But, you have this cohesive look, and this, I purposely made them all facing one direction. I purposely made the state line up with the eyes. So like when you're looking at the eyes, you can look and you can see the state, and then beneath it you have the actual name of each bird. So I wanted to give it like a like this sort of connecting thing, or like baseball cards, you know, they all have like a similar like frame or a similar font, or there's like that cohesiveness to them. And so I kept that very consciously in my mind when I was designing them. You know, you want to make these like collectible, almost like a baseball card or a stamp, but you want to make them, you know, you want to give them that cohesiveness, but at the same time, you also want to give each bird their individuality. And I think I did a pretty decent job at doing that. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys see the birds of the USA right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just making sure before I ask the next question. So this is actually going to be, I believe, also for Ben. Chicago Toy Hunter, the guy who created the NFTs, the free NFTs for this conference, he has a collection called NFT Toy Photography on OpenC. He takes pictures of toys with these crazy backgrounds. He's an incredible artist. He says, "Are you a fan of Alex Ross?"
Oh, I love Alex Ross. He's I will say his style is very, very realistic, and he uses a lot of photo references. He takes a lot of his own photography. And his skill level is next level. I mean, me personally, I think his artwork should be more hung up in like an art gallery or something, because when you consider comic book art, comic book art like way back in the day was like so disposable. It was like you pick up a comic book for like, you know, $1, and then you read it and then you throw it away, right? It was like, even I've seen interviews with Stan Lee where he was like, in his earlier career, people would ask him what he did as a living, and he was so embarrassed that he worked in the comic book industry, because the comic book industry was like, it was like synonymous with like little kids and little children, and like, you know, just like this fantasy world of like, you know, nothing, you know, it's just for kids. It's like for kids to pass time and to read and all that stuff. And so a lot of times he would just say like he was a writer, Stan Lee would, because he was so embarrassed about being associated with like such a kiddie industry, right? Nowadays, like, you know, you think about like how much of an impact comic books have had on pop culture. Now it's like every other movie is a comic book movie, a superhero movie. You know, everybody's wanting to get into this like world of superheroes and just this world of fantasy and fiction. And he made like this very interesting comment of like, comic books are modern day mythology of like, you know, gods and like, and aspiring to like become bigger and better versions of yourself. And I'm like, man, that's really very, very true. Because you think about like Spider-Man, he was like this nerdy kid picked on in school, and then he gets like the responsibility of this great power. And so what does he do with it? Does he like go around robbing people? Does he go around, you know, robbing stores? Does he go around like, you know, because that power with anybody else could have been used for like very, very treacherous things. But what does he decide to do with it? He wants to help people. He wants to better his neighborhood. He wants to better the world. So it is like in a weird way, our modern mythology, comic books are. And it just kind of like, it can show you how humans can aspire to be better, even if they don't have superpowers, right? But Alex Ross is phenomenal. He's a great artist, and I think his art gave comic books a sense of validity that, you know, no other artist really kind of like gave, in my opinion. You know, there's a lot of great artists in the comic book world, and a lot of artists that I follow, but Alex Ross is, in my opinion, he's like one of the guys that gave a certain gravitas, a certain like seriousness to the comic book industry. And it's like, I'm very, I like his stuff a lot.
Awesome. Thea.
Yes.
Let's talk. I just want to ask you about it's your community, your Discord, the people on your TikToks, but also the larger community in general. Can you just talk about the NFT community and how it keeps you here? And I'll just make a little comment. For me, I've thought about quitting this community several times, and I've either had a person reach out to me in a DM or someone on a TikTok or someone just say, hey man, we love you. You're doing amazing things. And it made me stay for a couple of days and I worked through it. So tell me about your personal community of Birds of the USA and then the larger NFT community in general for people who are new.
I think that the NFT community are like, okay, let me back up a second. Like I started on social media with a fitness account. I posted on that fitness account for probably 3 years and I never found community. And then I'm like, let me try this NFT thing. Let me get on TikTok. I wasn't expecting to find community. I was like, I came here with the idea. I think the idea of NFTs, people come here thinking they can make another stream of income, whatever, but then they're not expecting the community aspect. And then that's what makes a lot of people stay. That's what happened for me anyway. There's just a lot of people with growth mindsets, which is what I have. So I feel like it's a lot of like-minded people trying to overcome whatever adversity they have, trying to make something better of themselves while trying to help other people in the meantime, because they recognize that these other people are just like me, trying to do the same thing as me. And I feel like there's such a connection there. Like I already told you, I connected with Lauren Turton early on, and another person I really connected with was Brain Shambles. Her name is Caitlin. She was like, I'm doing this NFT thing and I'm doing it all backwards. I'm like, girl, me too. We had the art done before we did anything. And then I was like, oh, we need community. We need somebody to be able to buy these things. But then in the meantime, it's just like sharing what you're doing and just connecting with all these other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing. So I've had a lot of fun with it. There's just a lot of like really creative people, really giving people. Nobody's gatekeeping. Everyone's like, if you have a question about, like I was asking, how do you do merch? And I was asking Brain Shambles because she's had success with her merch. She was actually selling things on Etsy before she was doing NFTs. Like she made a killing with face masks during the pandemic. And so she shared with me what she was doing. And like, okay, I'm going to do that because it sounds really hands off. And the more I can simplify my life, the better. So it's really good to be able to ask these people, feel comfortable asking these people questions and them answering. And it's just like this exchange of ideas and positivities. And I've just like blown my mind, like truly, like I feel like I finally find my people. So that's my spiel about community.
Yeah. And have you, I have a question for you, Ben, in a second, but have you just found that like 99% of the people are supportive and generous and kind? And like you said, gatekeeping. When I was a young video editor, the older video editors would lock the doors to the edit room so you couldn't get in there at night and learn how to edit, because then you would be their competition. And that's just a horrible way to live. And I feel like everybody in the NFT space is like, hey man, anything I can do to help, or just purchasing your NFT or whatever. Everybody's super supportive.
It's more collaboration versus competition.
Right.
Which is the vibe I get here.
Yeah, we're all trying to get the same thing.
I was like 95+% of engagement I have on my TikTok stuff is all like people like me and you, like being supportive, good vibes. Like, I mean, of course, there's a few that are not, but that's the exception to the rule, honestly.
Right. And last thing before I get to Ben, can you talk a little bit about, I don't have this experience, women in the NFT community, because there's a lot of women Twitter spaces, there's a lot of support between women. What do you find? Because there's not a lot of women, and even Lauren has talked about it, that it's like 15% or something. There's not a lot of women in this space.
You know, it's really funny you say that because I feel like women are represented well on TikTok anyway. I feel like at least my TikTok algorithm shows me tons of women in Web3.
Right.
And so like I never felt like we were a minority. But then Brain Shambles, Caitlin, went to Bitcoin Miami and she was sharing a video of people at this conference and it was literally all dudes. And I'm like, where are all the women at?
Yeah. Yeah.
So because in my little bubble in TikTok, I'm like, there's tons of women here. But then when you actually go outside of the TikTok bubble, you're like, okay, there's really not that many women in this space. But I never let that like be a thing that I harp on. Like, yes, I am a woman, but it's like, I don't know. When you look at the viewers, we're pretty even matched. We have both males and females watching us. And I don't know if that's just because I don't harp on being a woman or if it's because that Ben's involved or because I think there's plenty of great guys in this space too that are supportive of women. So I really haven't found that as like a barrier for me personally.
Okay. Ben, this is kind of a weird question, but somebody wanted to ask it. If you become very wealthy, what would you do first?
I would definitely help out my family. I would, if money was no object, and if I made a tremendous amount of money, I would make their lives a little bit easier. Like primarily, first and foremost, I would pay off like
my student loans.
Yeah, I'd pay off student loans. I'd pay off any sort of debts, any outstanding whatever. I've got an older brother, like I said, and we have 2 nephews as well. I would set up, college funds for them. I would set up, I would make sure they were taken care of first and foremost, and obviously, I mean, I don't have a lot of, expenses in my life, but, it'd be nice to be like, debt free, mortgage free. I finally paid off, my student loans, like after 15 years of paying them off. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I finally paid them off, so yeah. It was such a tremendous weight off my shoulders. And that was just like, just grinding for years and years and years and paying it off bit by bit. But eventually you get to that finish line. Hopefully everybody can have that same experience. It's such a good feeling to know that, you got your degree and you're working in the same industry as you got your degree in, and then you finally pay it off. So yeah, that would be my first thing, is like just making sure my family is taken care of financially. And so they have been, like every day you're like grinding and you're doing your daily 9 to 5 and all that stuff. Everybody kind of has that chaining them down in a sense, where you gotta meet your financial obligations. And if things were to take off in that manner, I would make sure that, they would have that freedom as well, that, they're not shackled down to their mortgage. They're not shackled down to their student loans. They're not shackled down to their, previous financial obligations and stuff like that. So like I would give them a completely clean slate to start off with. So now that's not to say I would like, make them, give them mansions and boats and stuff like that, because right. I feel like a little bit of struggle with everybody is a good thing. It makes you definitely appreciate what you have a lot more. It definitely makes you like more grounded in a sense. And I think people that overcome a certain struggle, especially like if you're paying off a student loan or a mortgage or something like that, it just like, I feel like it just makes you a better person overall, because you've had this struggle and you've overcome it. And so like I would help them out financially, but I would not give them the resources to where they could fully retire and just go, vacation for the rest of their life, because I think that would ultimately just destroy them in a sense.
Right. Oh, that
was a great question. Thank you for asking it.
Whoever very cool. I didn't expect it to come out that way. Yeah. So you never know. But Thea, you are going to NFT NYC, and then you're doing some other stuff, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, you said on your TikToks that you're going to Europe for a while. Are you going to be still doing your TikToks in Europe and still like promoting and posting or are you going to take some time off? Because I'm telling you right now, after this conference, this has been 3 months straight for me and Andy. I'm taking a couple weeks or a month off, but are you still going to be doing all this stuff?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my biggest goal is to be like I think the most important thing in life is to get to a point eventually where you have control of your time and you get to choose what you do with your time. So I'm in a unique position at this point in my life where I have this opportunity that I can choose to go explore the world. So yes, I quit my jobs and I'm going to Boston, I'm going to New York, and then after that I'm flying to Europe. And I bought a to there ticket, but not a return ticket because I just want to kind of feel it out. I do plan on staying on TikTok. I love me some TikTok. I love this community. I'm not going anywhere. I'm also going to be starting a functional medicine business that I can do from anywhere in the world because it's going to be remote online. And I can share some behind the scenes with that as well. I hired a business coach. It's like a year-long program for me to get through. So yeah, I'm excited to share my travels. I might, in addition to TikTok, might start back up my YouTube and like kind of make it a little bit more structured than I've had in the past, like something health, something NFT, something travel, kind of make it like that every once a week or something like that in addition to my TikToks.
Very cool. So the last question I ask everybody, we have 12 minutes and you both can talk about this. What is the future for the both of you in NFTs? Is there a second collection? And what do you see as the future of NFTs? Everybody is talking about regulation and cryptos crashing and it's NFT winter. I know we still have the community and we're doing events like this, which are amazing. But what do you see the future of your own project and then NFTs in general? Ben, if you want to start.
Me personally, I don't know because like I do see all this regulation coming down. I do see not so much as NFTs, but eventually I believe that we're all going to go to a digital form of currency. So it's inevitable. Eventually, we're all going to be, on this digital system. As far as NFTs go, I honestly don't know shit about NFTs. I'm still learning, so I will defer to my sister on that question because honestly, it's still a cluster to me, honestly. And I'm confident enough to say I don't know. I have no idea, and I really don't know that much about NFTs in general. So yeah, okay. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the future of NFTs is yet to be determined. However, NFTs as a technology, I believe, are not going anywhere. I do think that a lot of people who are in the NFT space will not be in this NFT space anymore 5 years from now. They didn't get their get rich quick or whatever. They're going to drop out. But the people who stay around, I think there's still a good opportunity for them. Because even if you have an NFT project that you like got into and it didn't do so well and you decide not to continue it, you have skills that other companies are going to be interested in because this is the direction I believe that we're going in. And so other companies will be like, oh, you have experience with NFTs. Let me hire you or whatever. And then it's just like the future of any kind of contracts, because I think we are going more towards like blockchain and these newer types of technology. So like houses are going to be NFTs, like anything that's any kind of contract is just going to be an NFT because I think electronic on the blockchain is just the direction we're heading in.
And one last thing, if you look at the way technology typically goes, it's usually like this groundling movement. Let's take, for example, the music industry, right? Well, back in the day, all the record labels basically owned all the artists. That's all there was. If you wanted to be a musical artist, your record industry owned you. And you became basically like a slave to them. And then technology kind of freed them up. Now you have, and back in the early days, you had, streaming services like, they weren't really streaming, but like Napster, for example, you had like this, just like some kid developed this piece of software And then everybody started taking notice of it. And I kind of see NFTs as the same way, where everybody's taking notice of NFTs, and then the government steps in and starts regulating it. And then eventually, the way I kind of see it happening is like the same way that happened to Napster. Like a lot of these, independent guys are going to go away, but there's going to be like 2 or 3 huge major ones that are going to basically control the whole market of it. Like if you look at, like, say for example, Spotify for music, right? If everybody streams music from Spotify, or like other these smaller streaming services, Pandora, for example. So before you had the regulation, it was willy-nilly, everything went. It was the Wild West, that's the era we are right now with the NFTs. It's still the Wild West. You don't know what's going to happen. I think they're still going to they're going to continue to move forward in the future, but they're just going to be so heavily regulated that basically it's going to be like down to like 2 or 3 major players that are going to like control the whole flow of things. That's the way I see it, at least.
I agree, man. I think you're right. It's nice to hear the birds in the background.
And a helicopter just passed by. Sorry.
Yeah. I thought it was a plane or something.
We're going to come up with our own bird call.
All right, guys, we have 5 minutes. So anything do you want to ask your brother, Thea, or anything else you guys want to add about NFTs, life in general? Go for it.
Oh my gosh, there was so much more I could have asked him, but because we're wrapping up and we only have a few minutes left, I wanted Ben to show some of his other art. He's doing like a display of sorts. Or
yeah, there's a small little wine shop down here from my house, and they're so awesome. I had entered this design contest back in February, and I ended up winning it, right? And the owner of the so the person that was hosting this design contest, they also own like this small little wine shop, and I was talking to them about possibly, displaying some of my artwork in their little venue. And so what I've been doing the last month, 2 months, I've been printing and framing a bunch of my digital artwork, and I just kind of wanted to share it with everybody and to show you what I've been doing the last.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So anyway.
I don't know if you can see this. This one is one of our NFTs. What's this one called? Oh no, what's this one
I didn't really have an actual name for this one, but like I also
We're giving away this one in black and white.
I've also like framed a piece like this one. This was like my I called this one my Skullonaut. It's like a cosmonaut that's kind of like a skeleton.
And then here's another one in a different color.
And I have 2 variations of it.
Very cool. It's really cool art, man.
Thank you. So posting these 2 skeletons by the side of that other piece, they go together like as 3 pieces. They actually turn out really, really cool in that way. So that's pretty cool.
And we have the Sea Maidens that we turned into NFTs.
These were the Sea Maiden NFTs, and I put them all together on one poster. And so cool. I get to print these out at work, which is really cool. I have a large format printer at the office, so I can print these out.
Here's some things you did for a Pabst concert.
So this is Pabst Blue Ribbon, the beer. Every year they have a contest to design a beer can for them, and every year I enter, and every year I'm discouraged because I lose. But I think the designs were really cool. They're kind of like a little lowbrow, I do all these in Adobe Illustrator. These are not Photoshop. I actually draw these myself. So you got that one, and you have this one as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we're part of the Crypttooth Fairies collaboration. So this was his idea for the Crypttooth Fairy. And can you explain what your idea behind that was?
Yeah, so this was kind of created in the same manner as I created the birds. Like I Frankensteined all these parts and pieces together to form one cohesive
Notice
piece.
all the teeth up here.
Oh yeah.
From different animals, or what did you say?
What happened to him, Thea? I haven't seen him around. Crypttooth Fairies.
What's that?
I haven't seen this guy around.
No, he's still on.
He is? Okay.
Yeah.
So my concept of the tooth fairy was like the tooth fairy is like this.
Down. Yeah.
It's almost like this otherworldly figure, like almost like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or whatever. So like I was considering the tooth fairy is like this mystic creature that has been around since the beginning of time, and this creature has been collecting all sorts of teeth throughout time. Like, I want to like eventually give her like a spear with like the tooth from like a bygone era of like a mastodon or some sort of like a sea creature, like a shark, like a megalodon.
Right.
Look, those ancient sharks that have teeth the size of your head, so these teeth are massive, but her crown is made of like all molars and stuff like that. And I put like skull, there's a skull with like these teeth from like a saber-toothed tiger. I don't know if you can tell right here on the side. So she's got like very like mystical powers. So she's eternal, and she's been collecting teeth since the beginning of time, and collecting all sorts of like interesting teeth from like dinosaurs and like these bygone eras that creatures no longer exist anymore. So I thought that was a cool idea. I thought it was a cool concept, and that was kind of like my process of, I tend to think of a story for this character first, and then that story kind of like dictates the way I design it. So that's kind of how my brain works. I get my gears turning by almost telling myself a small story, and then from that story designing it.
He also has an idea for a movie. He's like straight up written a script, and like he straight up made a mock poster of like different actors that might play in the movie.
Yeah.
And so we don't really have time to get into that, but that might be something we go into the Sherwood project about, because we haven't applied yet. But
so the idea of that one was like I'm a big monster movie buff. I love monster movies. I love movies with science fiction and stuff like that. So I had this idea in my head of like, you see all these, Sharknado, you see like Jaws, you see like Jurassic Park, these movies with like these bigger than life creatures, but like I have never, ever, 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 ever seen a movie about a giant snapping turtle. And so I'm like, what if we have like this giant, huge, massive snapping turtle that gets brought to life inadvertently and runs amok in this like small, Louisiana fishing town, and it kills all these people and these animals and stuff like that. And it's up to like the main character to go hunt it down.
It's like a horror comedy, right?
It's supposed to be a horror comedy. Yeah.
No, I get it. So we have to wrap up. Amazing art. I have Owl Dudes, Andy, a bunch of people saying amazing art. Homer Reed says badass art, feels like Boris Vallejo.
Yeah, I
Frank
love
Frechetta, some of my faves.
Frank Frechetta is my all-time favorite. I love his stuff.
So everybody loves it. But before we go, both of you just tell us where we can find your NFT collections. I'm gonna show Ben's because we showed yours earlier. So right here is the Ben Pre-Cup collection. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So the Ben Pre-Cup collection, and some of the things you were showing, and then that's on OpenC. And then Thea, where can we find Birds of the USA?
Everything is on OpenC. We have our 3 collections. We have the Ben Pre-Cup collection, the Birds of the USA, and also have my NFT Friends, which technically you can't buy NFT Friends, but you do buy it if you buy Birds of the USA, because that's just a way for me to honor you. So, but they're all on OpenC.
Yeah, that's right. And if you ever like in the future open up Netflix and you see Snapper pop up,
dude, you can do it. I had a friend who was a video editor, and he made a horror movie called Nicole, which happens to be my girlfriend's name, but she was not, she was not the killer. But this woman just went crazy with an axe, and he put it together. I think it was like $8,000 because he had his own DSLR, and he made a movie, and Amazon bought it. So you can do it, man. You just have to set your mind to it. Thanks so much, guys, for being here. You're amazing human beings. You're great brother and sister team. Your NFTs are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody's the comments just keep going and going. Everybody loves you.
We gotta come up with a bird call.
Brah, brah, brah. All right, guys. Thanks so much, and hang out for the other talks today and tomorrow if you want, and comment. And we will record this and we'll get this to you, Thea, at some point in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Thank you. And next, let me just tell everybody who's next. It is at 3:30 p.m. is Velvet Crab Visuals being interviewed by Lady Boss Leader. So thanks so much, guys. We're looking forward to that, and we will see you later. Thank you, and talk to you soon.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.